All right. Well, I'm just gonna go ahead. Adolf, thank you for being here, man. I know that you have many things on the go. And I just wanted to get a little bit of what you do. Adolf, you mentioned that you have a specialty in conservation and restoration. So if you just want to explain a little bit about how you got to, or what is your inspiration, what really drove you to go into that direction, and then we'll just keep talking. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's all you.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for that opportunity. And obviously, what prompted me to delve into the field of conservation,
Hmm.
like after high school, I needed to go to the university,
Yeah,
and like I said earlier, I'm a Cameroonian, and being a Cameroonian, Cameroon is one of the countries located in the Gulf of Guinea. So being located at the Gulf of Guinea, it has a greater part of it covered by the rainforest, that is the Congo Basin rainforest. And I happen to originate from one of those regions that are entirely covered by the rainforest,
right. Hmm.
which is the southwest region of Cameroon.
Okay.
Yep. Life
High
during,
biodiversity, absolutely
yeah,
rich in
yeah,
resources. Yeah, absolutely.
exactly.
Hmm.
Growing up, yeah, growing up, like I was so close to nature.
Yeah.
I was basically closer to nature, so I developed that interest in everything that has to do with nature. But then the manner in which the resources were being exploited was worrisome. So when I got to the university, I had to
Mhm.
like have a retrospect on how resources were being exploited, and I said, oh, if these resources are being exploited randomly as they are being
Yeah.
done, it
Yeah.
means within the near future there's going to be a problem.
Hmm.
So, yeah. So then I asked myself, what can I do? What will be my contribution towards making sure that these resources are kind of sustainable to meet, let's say, so the future generations can equally benefit
Right.
from these resources. That's how I had to delve into the field of conservation. And I can tell you, it has never been a walk to the park. It's a journey that has been characterized with a lot of setbacks. But then
Mm.
what doesn't kill you makes you strong. So I just had to keep on pushing in collaboration with other experts in the field.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because I got my lecturers at the university, my professors, who have always been there to guide me through the process and
Hmm.
to always encourage me. So that's how I found myself into it.
So your connection to, nature and conservation and biodiversity, all these things, it really came from a personal uh perspective. You seeing that where you grew up, it was abundant, but the way the things are being managed, can you go a little bit into that? Because people may not know um what do you actually mean by, let's say, extraction of resources or the management of those resources. Sometimes people don't have a plain view of, how things are actually managed. So maybe you can go a little bit into detail about that.
Yeah, sure. Uh,
Mhm.
when I mentioned the manner in which resources are being extracted, for instance, the Congo Basin is endowed with both resources like uh, uh, both plants and animals, like flora and fauna. Now, one of these resources are being extracted simultaneously. For
Mhm.
instance, there is a lot of hunting taking place in this zone, and there is a lot of timber and the harvesting of non-timber forest products that takes place within this zone. Because normally the indigenous people who inhabit this zone, they see non-timber forest products like their own resources which are readily available for them.
Mhm.
So in order for them to extract these resources, they don't take into consideration, like they don't acquire licenses from anyone. They know that these resources are, are, are free gifts from nature, so
Mm,
they can extract it whenever they want.
mhm,
And
mhm.
now, the manner in which they extract these resources are not sustainable. The manner is not sustainable. Like, for instance, there is a product they locally call bush pepper. I've forgotten the scientific name of it. What they do is when they want to harvest it, they go and cut, they'll have to cut the stem.
Yeah.
Yeah. So cutting the stem definitely means that it's going to wither. And for it to grow to maturity, it takes a longer period.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then within this zone again, there are some plant species that way where people go and harvest the barks of those trees.
Right. Mm-hmm.
We know the importance of barks of trees to the tree themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So when they go, they harvest these barks of trees, it poses a problem.
Yeah.
Most of these trees, they die off, especially when we are approaching the heart of the dry seasons. These trees cannot resist the dry season, so they die off.
Okay.
It has seen the disappearance of some of these tree species.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, another pertinent uh, uh, scenario is the hunting of games. We know that there are some animals that have been declared as endangered species, but then these people within these communities, they don't care to know if these are endangered species or not, because they basically lack that knowledge of which animal species has been declared endangered.
Mm-hmm.
So they go into the forest, whatever thing they come across, they go in for it. So
Maybe what led to that being kind of a scenario where uh extracting these resources, whether it's fauna or flora, had became a problem? Like, was it something that led up to it, do you think?
yeah, like I said earlier, most of these people, they rely solely on what nature offers.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, they don't have any other source of livelihood
Mm-hmm.
aside the resources from the forest.
Yeah, of course.
You get?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So they see the forest as their sole uh, source of survival.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever they eat comes from the forest.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever they sell comes from the forest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that is basically the main reason why this forest, this flora and fauna are a target in these zones.
Right. Um,
Yeah.
if what is currently happening in order to combat this so that there is more of a sustainable kind of um delivery of all these resources and protection almost.
Okay. Yeah. Basically, my my national my government, or my home country's government, has been a participant of international conventions.
Mm,
For instance, they have rectified a lot of these conventions, like the Convention,
hmm.
the yeah, the Paris Peace Agreement, the Paris Agreement,
Right.
and every other convention that has to do with the protection of plant and animal species.
Hmm.
Now, within the country, we have some ministries that have been put in place, like the Ministry of Forestry and Wildlife, the
Right.
Ministry of Environment and Nature Protection, that
Yeah.
have been put in place. And these ministries, they have they have regional delegations,
Hmm.
and they have divisional delegations.
Hmm.
So these ministries and these delegations, they make sure that they have to implement these policies, those policies that will ensure sustainability of these resources.
Right.
Now, within the grassroots levels, since we have only the ministries and the delegations.
Yeah.
People at the grassroots levels, they tend not to have
Okay.
this information on time.
Mm,
So personally, I have been working with these these delegations. I've been working with these delegations. Like I go gather information from them, and then I had to relate it to the people at the grassroots levels.
right.
Again, I work with. I guess I told you I'm a focal point for one non-governmental organization.
Yeah.
Yeah, known as Green Globe. So being a focal point for Green Globe,
Mm,
this Green Globe being a youth-led organization,
hmm.
we work basically with people at the grassroots.
Yeah.
So we act as an interface between
Hmm.
the government offices and the people at the grassroots.
Yeah.
Yep. So we gather this information from the people, from the government. We go to the field and then we educate the people. When we are educating the people, we make sure that we we identify those areas which are already facing threats.
Right.
And if we go as far as, let's say, planting some tree species, for instance,
Hmm.
uh, last year, a particular sacred forest was burnt down by wildfire. So what we did was we went there to plant about 2,000 tree species.
Whoa. Hmm.
Yeah. So all of that is a bit to restore the degraded biodiversity and
Hmm.
to ensure its sustainability. And then we have, because my country has a very extended coastline of about 400 meters.
400 meters. Yeah.
Yep. And this coastline is uh, is endowed with lots of these species, especially mangroves,
Mm, hmm.
mangroves of
Yeah.
various species, the red and the white mangroves and stuff like that. So we go
Mhm.
there, we educate the people within the coastal communities because
Yeah.
they rely on these mangroves.
Hmm.
They rely on these mangroves. So we go there to educate them on the importance of these mangroves.
The
Yep,
important.
and we give reasons why they shouldn't cut down these mangroves.
Hmm. Ah, because they do. I see. Do you feel like
Yeah.
what you're doing currently, because I know that there's kind of national and international implementations for conservation and protection. You mentioned we were talking before, and you said MPAs, for example. Um, and you find that being able to have an interface between the government and youth-led organizations like the one you're advocating and the grassroots, is that the connect? Are you starting to see results where there is kind of that initiation being kind of put forward on the ground? Do you feel like there has been a big change? Because planting 2,000 trees is a big initiative.
Yeah. There has been improvement,
Mm,
and it keeps on widening as the years goes by because just of recent, another organization had to contact us that they have mapped out a watershed that they want us to like supervise the tree planting activity
mhm.
around the watershed.
Okay. Hmm.
Yeah, so I believe that our actions are really being felt on the ground.
Right. Do you feel like
Yeah.
because what you're doing, it allows for other organizations to reach out to you and to kind of expand the objective? I mean, if you can first take a step back and explain how you got involved with this organization and then how it's expanding in partnership with like the Watershed Project. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, sure. Okay. I got involved with this Green Globe organization. It was actually an initiative that was brought forward by one of my colleagues.
Okay. Wow.
Now, he suddenly visited my Facebook handle and saw my write-ups. He
Mm-hmm.
saw my write-ups, and yeah, he saw my write-ups, and most of these write-ups, because before even joining them, I had served as a volunteer with yet another
Right.
uh, non-governmental organization, about three of them. That is
Okay.
War for Change Solutions,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, Ecological Balance Cameroon,
Okay.
yeah, and a host of them. So I had served as a volunteer, which I still serve as a volunteer. I'm still a volunteer with them. So I had gathered this experience.
Right. And were
Yeah,
they
I had.
geared towards the same objective or they're a little bit different? It would be interesting if you send me the links to these, so other people can take a look also.
Yeah, yeah, sure. I will do that. Yeah,
Okay.
they have these organizations. They have a similarity. They
Okay.
have a lot of similarity. Yeah, similarities on uh, biodiversity restoration, protection
Okay.
and restoration. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So apart from another one which is a abbreviated MDD, which is a movement for democracy, development, and transparency in Cameroon, which is concerned on social aspects like fighting against crime wave in the society,
Mm-hmm.
fighting against drug abuse,
Mm-hmm.
fighting against rape,
Mm-hmm.
ensuring human rights, because my
Mm-hmm.
country is one of those countries that have been plagued by a socio-political crisis within the past 8 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So aside this organization, all the other organizations I have worked with, I have served as a volunteer. They have a similar objective, which is biodiversity restoration.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had gathered experience from these organizations,
Yeah.
and when this initiative of Green Globe came in,
Mm-hmm.
my yeah, the architect of it just said, "Oh, hey Adolf, you have a good experience in this field, so I think you'll be good to serve as a focal point. And since you have a good experience again in volunteerism, serving as a coordinator of volunteer activities within the organization will help grow the organization."
That's
So
amazing. Yeah.
yeah, I have those capacities, serving as as a coordinator of volunteers and being a focal point within the same organization.
Right. And
Yeah.
now that you're here, you said that you are now partnering with like a watershed initiative. What does that look like? And are you like handling all the logistics or how does what stage are you in with that project?
Yeah, at the project of the watershed restoration, we
Mm,
are still at the initial stage. That like
okay.
we are still starting, because when they reached out to us, we told them they should make a survey of the area.
Right.
They should make a survey of the area, and then the estimated number of trees they want to be
Mm-hmm.
planted.
Yeah.
Yep. So they have done that already, and they reached out. They did that, and they said they need to plant. They need to start with about 5,000 trees.
5,000 trees. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And
So
this
they
is
need to
along
start
the
with
mangrove area, or where would this be?
no, not within the mangrove areas, in another area.
Okay.
Now this area is yeah, in the Western Highlands.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because within my country, the Western Highlands uh, is one of the watersheds of the country.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's one of the watersheds of the country. So we're going to plant these trees there to secure this watershed.
What I really find interesting about everything you're telling me is, and I know you had studied many years, even speaking before this, we realized that we had studied quite a bit and we ventured off in different projects and initiatives in terms of sustainability, protection, conservation. But what I find most interesting is that getting away from the university where things get very theoretical and it's a lot of research based, but what you're doing now is very on the field application, working with other organizations in order to do concrete actions like plant trees, protect the mangroves, education. What is your thoughts about that? I mean, the actual work to be done in terms of trying to protect the very same things that you studied all of these years.
Yeah, my thoughts have always been um, applicability of the knowledge I have gathered so far. I I know that uh, once knowledge has been acquired, this knowledge needs to be reinvested into the society
Mm,
to build the society which we want to see. Because um, recently there has been lots of talk about climate change and its associated effects.
yeah,
Now, one thing we need to understand here is that when we're talking of climate change, yes, climate change is real, but then the manner in which or the degree in which it affects people differs.
yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
so it differs, and the, the poor South, if I may put it that way, the poor South or the global South are the
Hmm.
ones, yeah, are the ones suffering the most from the effects of climate change.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are the ones suffering the most from the effects of climate change. So I just took it as a challenge upon myself that okay, oh, since we are suffering from this, myself, I'm suffering from it. It is inevitable. I can't run away from it. I just have to make sure that I contribute
Yeah.
towards, yeah, towards making sure that the effects are somehow minimal, somehow
Hmm.
reduced. Yeah, because I can say I can totally solve the problem of climate change, but I have a quota that I can contribute towards ensuring its mitigation or towards mitigating its effects. And
Hmm.
that is why I just had to, okay, say, oh, and knowing that no one is an island, no one is an island, I can't do it alone. I had to look for opportunities wherein I can be able to chip in my
Yeah.
little contributions, yeah,
Hmm.
to make sure that we achieve a common goal, because we all have a common goal, and this common goal, it needs a collective effort
Yeah.
to achieve this goal. So I just had to look for opportunities where I can contribute my little efforts. I don't know if that answers your question.
Absolutely, because what you try to do is really see how you can turn all of your knowledge into application to really make a difference in the best way possible that you can in your own, small little way. Because I find
Exactly.
that, number one, there's a big lack between knowledge in terms of, okay, yes, we're all talking about climate change, but when you don't see it up front, there's that human connection that may lack in terms of, oh, I'm not being affected. But there's many
Mm-hmm.
parts of the world that really are. And then two, I mean, by being able to really extend everything that you want to do in this way,
Yeah.
is probably the most important. And I think that's one of the things that intrigue me the most is this is an inevitable thing that's happening in terms of lack of resources or an exploitation of resources in terms of fisheries of trees and water. There's a lot that's happening. And for
Mm.
people to really take the initiative, I mean, you mentioned you took it upon yourself, and that really merits a lot of um like commendation, because there's no one behind you telling you, oh, you should do this. It really came from somewhere within you to say, I really feel like I can contribute in this way. And with
Mm.
everything that I've done so far, that's my way of contributing. And I think that uh, is so important. And to be able just to share information to people is not enough. So how do you feel like you're really being able to connect with people to really help them to understand like the depth of all the problems that are happening, like currently in Cameroon, for example?
Yeah. Actually, I feel fulfilled, like seeing that our efforts or my efforts are yielding positive fruits. Yeah, because for instance, on World Water Day and International Day of the Forest, I had to I had to
Oh, I think we lost communication there. Hold on a minute. Let's wait a second. I think there's a communication. Hold on. Hold on. Hello? Hold on. Hello?
yes, can you hear me?
Ah, yeah, back. No problem. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, let's let's continue. Sometimes we never
Yeah.
know if it's on my end or your end. Yeah.
Yeah.
Please,
Okay.
as you said, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. I was saying that seeing the impact my actions are having in the field, and knowing that my actions are recording positive impact in the field is a fulfillment unto me. For instance, on International Day of the Forest
Mhm.
and World Water Day, I visited my home community where I'm coming from. Yeah, I visited my home community, and just within around the neighborhood, there is a stream flowing around the neighborhood. I went there, and I realized there has been a lot of uh, waste that has been dumped into this stream. So I quickly gathered some youths within the quarter, and we had to just clean up, do some
Mhm.
cleanup campaign along the river channel.
Mhm.
Yeah, and then I had a talk with them, telling them to always pass around time to time, and then try to check around the area to
Yeah.
clear off some debris, and then to equally intensify the the sensitization campaign of telling people not to dump waste in this stream, because streams down here down here in the south, streams are basically dumping grounds.
Yeah.
Honestly, yeah,
Mhm.
streams are dumping grounds. Streams which were known to be fit for human consumption,
Mhm.
the waters are no longer
Mhm.
suitable for that purpose
Mhm.
because they have been polluted. Yeah. So me being able to engage other youths into these activities, even in my absence, it's a huge fulfillment. I'm just so overwhelmed that I'm able to create some impact,
Yeah.
especially in my community.
Absolutely. Can you just to like tie it back to what your current actions is and what you where you came from? Like what is it that you studied in particular that led you up to this? Um and then I have some follow-up questions, but yeah, what is it that you specialized in so people can have like a general understanding of how you are able to come up to this point and really, create an impact. Because you have like this sort of um, professor type, activist, kind of air around you. So just to kind
Mm.
of go back a little bit, what is it that took you from where you were before to now in terms of like, yeah, studies and stuff like that?
Yeah, okay. Basically, like I said earlier, uh, at my undergrad, I studied geography,
Geography. Okay.
and yeah, even at my postgrad, I studied geography. So
Mm,
at the postgraduate levels now, I had to fine tune an area, a
mm,
particular area of interest.
mm,
Yeah, I had to like streamline myself to a particular area,
yeah,
following my interest.
yeah.
My interest, yeah, is my interest is in climate change. When we talk of climate change, it cuts across adaptation and mitigation,
Hmm.
advocacy, because
Yeah,
climate change is broad. It's kind of broad.
right.
Yeah. Again, then we have sustainability. Sustainability again is broad. Under
Hmm.
sustainability, I had to do it. resource sustainability.
Hmm.
Yeah, then I had to, when I talk of this resource sustainability, it has to engulf conservation and restoration.
Right.
Yeah, so that is how I had to move from my undergrad to my postgrad, and then finding this area of specialization. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we are starting to see how you started from abroad. And I think in terms of anyone who is interested in being able to learn more, because even the Facebook group that I currently have creating, there's a lot of people wanting to receive more information. They want awareness, they want more knowledge, they want to share and learn from other people. And I think it's interesting being able to look at it from like a broad perspective, and then from there narrow in on first what are the interests, but then also realize, in particular, in your case, you mentioned that, well, I grew up in this one area from the Congo Basin, and then from there realize that we are all interconnected with nature, but what is it that's really, what's the problem that's currently happening? And then you took the initiative to say, oh, I want to focus on that because it is in line with my interest. And
Mm,
when you are in line there, it really creates a sort of natural activism in wanting to share and wanting to teach people. I mean, uh, if you weren't there, I mean, the youths that you helped, oh, let me, help me clean up the contamination that's happening in the waterways. You gave them a point of view, and I think that is absolutely important, and it's more necessary. I mean, I think there's a big lack between what people see and what is actually really happening.
exactly.
I think for me, for example, being able to do a master's in marine science, I became overly depressed by understanding how much problems and case studies and things that are happening currently. And there was always a
Mm,
lack of how can I find a solution to something that's currently happening? Because as you mentioned, we are climate change is happening. And in certain countries, you can see the effect even stronger.
mm,
And I think that's
mm,
really interesting. So by you being able to create all these initiatives, really allows people to learn but apply at the same
mhm.
time.
Yeah.
What is it that you feel that when you speak like on the ground, the grassroots, what is the reception, or what is it, are people excited by it, or people, is it completely new, or what is that dynamic that you feel when you speak to
O-
people?
Okay. Uh, no one is actually ignorant about what's happening.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. No one is ignorant about what's happening. For instance, the only thing which makes it slightly different is the language of communication.
Interesting. Hmm.
Yes, because now, yeah, now, for instance, if I meet a grandmom of, let's say, who is above 70,
Hmm.
yeah, I want to communicate with her. The best language she will understand.
Yeah.
If I use that language, she's going to have something to say
Yeah.
about climate change.
Perfect. Hmm.
Yeah, for instance, I met one grandmother. I just asked her randomly,
Hmm.
um, ma'am, please, I wish to find out what's the has there been a change in the quantity of cassava you used to produce 20 years ago to what is being produced now? She said, yes, there has been a drastic change. I asked her, what has changed? Has the quantity increased or reduced? She said, no, the quantity has reduced. And then I asked her, uh, the quality of potable drinking water around your neighborhood? She
Hmm.
said, no, the quality of drinking water, at first they could just go to the streams and then they fetch water from there and they are good to go.
Yeah.
Even the rainwater, they could easily harvest rainwater and
Mm-hmm.
they use it. But
Mm-hmm.
but now when you harvest rainwater, it's kind of dark.
Yeah.
Yes, indicating the presence of soot in it.
Right.
Yeah. And then she said the streams are all dirty. You see, she could not really say polluted, but she said dirty,
Yeah.
which means she has an idea of what is happening. Now, the mode of communication, the language which is used in communicating, is what makes it a little bit different. So when I go to these areas, because my country, we use two national languages, French and English.
French and English. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So and when I go to an area, if it's a French speaking zone, I make sure that I communicate in French.
Mm-hmm.
If it's an English speaking zone, I communicate in English. And then again, the English speaking zones, they have the pidgin English that they use there.
Yeah.
So when I meet people in this zone,
Mm-hmm.
I make sure that I use pidgin English to communicate with them so that my message can reach them and their own message will reach me.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And then if I go to my own community, because we have about 250 ethnic groups. So if I go back to my own home community, I use my own dialect to communicate with the grassroots people.
Yeah. Of course.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
that facilitates interactions.
You're a multilingualist.
Yes.
It
Yes.
must be. I find that really interesting because, for example, myself, I spent a lot of time at the university level. I've been able to work at a very high um, level in terms of I worked at the UN, for example, and the mode of language really is that is professional. I
Okay.
find it so very interesting what you mentioned there that actually there is almost no lack of awareness or ignorance, as you mentioned,
Uh-huh.
but it's
Yeah.
actually the form of communication that is
Yeah.
that is the barrier. Because if you speak to a grandmother and she says she's able to observe exactly what a scientist observes, I mean, she's
Yeah.
almost a scientist herself. It's just the way she communicates the difference because
Mhm.
she's from that zone. And I find it so interesting that instead of going someplace and teaching to people, it's more like how can we share and learn from one another so we can actually understand where there's a gap of communication there and we can work together.
Exactly.
That I find
Yeah.
absolutely interesting. Do you find that
Okay.
by you being able to focus on that form of communication has helped you to actually be able to better implement the projects that you're trying to do?
Exactly.
I think that's very, is there a way that you've noticed that by you being able to really communicate better with these communities has helped you versus someone who's a foreigner, for example, to go into these communities? Do you really see there's a difference there?
Yeah. 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 There has been for instance, if I got you well, you asked if there has been a difference between me who is able to go to these communities and someone who has never gone there, right?
For example, just to show the
Yeah.
difference in the communication.
Yeah. If you know, it's the way people behave, especially down here. If you can't speak a particular language which is understood by the masses,
Hmm.
information will not easily be released onto you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So people who go to these areas where they can't communicate fluently in the language which those people they understand,
Hmm.
it's difficult for them to get the required information.
Yeah.
And most often, you realize that um, all measures that are being implemented are simply window dressing. They don't get to tackle the root cause
Hmm.
of a particular problem.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yes, because the problem has not been diagnosed. The original problem has not been diagnosed. So whatever measure they are implementing from the information they will gather, the information is shallow. So they are going to implement, let's say, first aid measures, which are not concrete enough. So there is always a big difference there.
You find that that's your strength to be able to go, because you have all of this knowledge. You have, you studied at universities, you've gone to worked with different nonprofit organizations, you've been a volunteer, so many areas. You have a wealth of information. But now for you to translate that into real tangible scenarios, for example, you mentioned cassava, that is
Mhm.
a livelihood, and to see how the protection and conservation can affect a real tangible everyday situation. I mean, it seems like that's your strength right there, to be able to kind of communicate and translate how the impacts of climate change, how it's really impacting people on an everyday basis.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
I think that is
Exactly.
is that something that you guys focus on to do? Is it really something natural that you feel like is a must, but it's not something that you incorporate into like the structure of a project that you're working on? Does that make sense, the question?
Now come again. Take that over again.
Because um I think one of the most important things that I felt was the ability for people to understand what you're trying to tell them, right? In terms of science,
Mhm.
sustainability,
Yeah.
conservation. These are very big words, actually. Not everyone understands. Do you make an effort with the people that you work with to really speak in a way that people will understand what you're trying to say, or is it just something that happens naturally?
Yeah. Like I said earlier, most of these communities uh, are different from mine.
Hmm.
But then when I go into them, actually, there are some that I have faced those challenges.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you go to a certain area, you meet maybe an elderly person. The
Hmm.
person can't communicate in English. The person can't communicate in French.
Hmm.
The only language the person is capable of communicating is the dialect.
Yeah.
So in that scenario, it becomes uh, kind of difficult for you to communicate fluently.
Yeah.
Now, so it poses a challenge.
Hmm.
It poses a challenge. So what do? I make sure that, since if I carry out such a visibility study, I make sure that, okay, now, since these people can't communicate fluently in English or in French, what do? I try sourcing out for somebody from that community
Yeah.
who knows the dialect
Yeah.
and understand French and English perfectly.
Hmm.
So the person there will act as an intermediary between
Hmm.
me and the resource persons. Yeah.
And then for you to translate that back into like an actual, how is it that you produce for the initiative that you're currently working with, the youth um advocacy? How is it that you guys translate that back into more of a technical language?
Okay. Yeah. So what we do is, when we have gotten the root cause of a problem,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah. So we definitely trying to come out with a a solution.
Hmm.
We're trying to come out with a solution. So what we do is, we have to sit, brainstorm on it, and then fine-tune possible solutions. Now, these solutions needs, or these measures that we are taking, needs to be translated, or yeah, needs to be implemented in these communities.
Yeah.
So yeah, what we do is, we use the same channel that was used to get that information out of that area, and then we use that same channel to transfer that information to that area.
Hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
And then from there, now to go back to like the actual solution part of this, you work with other organizations to, for example, the watershed to expand on something that you've built already? I mean, in terms of trying to communicate, educate, create awareness. Um, are these other organizations, are they other nonprofits, or are they other businesses, or are they from the government? Like, how do you implement a strategy for solution in terms of like products that you use, or maybe like a service or a education program? How does that work?
Yeah, the organizations are non-for-profit organizations.
Okay. And they work with
Yeah,
the
they are
government.
non. Yeah, they are non-for-profit. So yeah, most often what we do is, you know, in order for us to successfully implement a project of that magnitude, it requires finance as well.
Hmm.
So what we do is we go into some sort of, let's say, if a project is huge, we go and solicit for assistance from our local councils.
Okay. Hmm.
Yeah, the council within that within that area will
Okay.
present the project to this council,
Hmm.
and if the council approves of it, then it gives us a little assistance that it can give.
Right.
Yeah, so that's basically how we go about that.
So, I mean, is it that the organization has an idea for that maybe they'll go to a certain place and they'll say, ah, there's water contamination, then they'll do some research, speak with people, then they'll take it to the local council and see how you guys can work together to really implement it.
Yes,
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
yes, that's exactly what we do, because like I said, the the problems of climate change,
Hmm.
yeah, affects everybody.
Yeah.
For example, the mayor of a local government area, of a local council, faces the same impact of
Hmm.
water scarcity.
Yeah.
Yeah, of water scarcity. So, and since he is there to serve the community, even if he has to drill a borehole in his compound, he cannot drill boreholes for everybody in the community.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah. So what is needed is just a general solution to a
Yeah.
particular problem.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm.
Because I think from there being able to really say, oh, we've identified there's water contamination, being able to speak and communicate that with people who know what's happening, they just don't have the right, maybe technical terms. So you need that link between people. Um,
Uh-huh.
the solutions that are kind of implemented, where does the funding come from? Do you know those kind of statistics? I mean, to be able to say, oh, this is where, you know, um, solutions are, because again, like the application is the most important part. And
Yeah.
otherwise it's theory. So
Mm-hmm.
what is actually happening? Because projects to take place, I mean, how are you actually impacting people? Maybe you could speak a little bit about that.
Okay. For us to actually successfully carry out a project, like I said earlier, it
Hmm.
requires some funds.
Hmm.
So what do? We solicit for funds from uh, other organizations.
Yeah.
We solicit for funds from funders, maybe out of the country.
Mhm.
We write and we write our grants proposals and submit, because
Mhm.
most of those organizations, they always launch grant applications.
Yeah.
So we apply for that, and then uh, even our, like I said, we equally write to our local councils when we identify a problem. We present the manifesto, some sort of a manifesto to them. This is what we have identified here, and it's something that which is actually feasible onto them, because they live the realities.
Hmm.
So yeah, so we present it to them that this is it, this is what we intend to do. So we'll be needing your assistance in this direction, in this direction. So
Yeah.
that's basically how we go about it.
It really becomes a micro to macro type of trajectory, because you really have to meet people where they're at in order to really implement like tangible solutions. Do you find
Exactly.
that that difficult? I mean, to be able to, really go to a grandmother and then speak to a larger organization where you have to ask for funding to really, because it really seems like there's a lot of steps there in order to get from A to
It,
B.
yeah, sure. It is. It is. It's actually a very tedious task because it's one. It requires a lot of time.
Hmm.
Yeah, it consumes it's time consuming because moving from the local community,
Yeah.
diagnosing their problem, and then transferring it to somebody who is able to fund the initiative. Most often, we write and the the funds are never given.
Hmm.
Yeah, the funds are never given. So what we do mostly in such scenarios is that
Yeah.
we go back to the grassroots.
Mhm.
Um, we do some sort of uh, uh, we implement local what we call local solutions to local problems.
Local solution, local
For-
problem.
Yeah, local solutions to local problems. For instance, uh, we have we have there is a regional tree nursery where trees are being nested.
Okay.
So yeah, where trees are being nested. So if, for instance, we can get funds for us to get enough tree species to plant, we revisit our tree nursery. We get those local trees and then we go plant them there.
Hmm. Okay.
Yeah,
That way, people are able to participate like in that, in that project. Why do you think that
exactly.
funds don't get given? Because it seems like the problems that, you guys have, well, in any region, in the tropical region, to be honest, that's where the effects are most felt, um, not strongest and first. Because I think more on the temperate, the further up north you get, the impacts until you get to the Arctic, the impacts that you feel of climate change, for example, are not really felt. Why do you think that
Uh-huh.
funding is not given?
Um, I'm not
Yeah.
sure why. I'm not sure why funding is not given, but then you know, maybe everyone has its own his own way of doing their stuffs. Like the one common email we usually receive is that this pool was really competitive and all applications could not be considered and stuff like that. So
Mm-hmm.
basically, can't tell why funds are not given and stuff like that.
How
And
many?
again,
Go ahead.
most organizations, some organizations like they might receive funding, but then they don't intend to use it for the purpose in which
Right.
the funds were granted. Yep.
Hmm. Seems like
Mhm.
there's a lot of um not barriers, but exactly like you mentioned, it's tedious to really go from point A and then go through the whole research initiative process and then get funding and then from there the actual implementation. Um,
Exactly.
what do you find is the most difficult aspect for you to actually carry out a project? Because of course you focus on which aspect of that whole process.
Oh, uh, I focus on when 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 we are taking such initiatives. I focus more on like since I'm a focal point,
Hmm.
I source for these funding opportunities, and
Okay.
yeah, I source for these funding opportunities, and I distribute them within my my network for those
Hmm.
those I'm working with. Yep,
Hmm.
those I'm working with, I distribute them that, oh, hey, you're gonna apply for this, you're gonna apply for this, you're gonna apply for this, and then I take mine and then I apply for some too.
Right.
So yeah, that's how we work it out.
That seems like yeah, it seems very like so many tedious steps to be able to really be able to implement. Are there a lot of
Exactly.
is there a lot of outreach? I mean, for youth, because I you mentioned that you're working with youth. You work with schools, universities, you know, volunteerism to be able to kind of make this more of a bigger project, or how does that look like?
Yeah, there is a lot of outreach, and as the days goes by, it keeps increasing.
Mm-hmm.
It keeps increasing, yeah, because I must tell you that you know, human beings are one of the most complicated sets uh, of species to deal with. You know,
Yeah,
yeah, because because we have different perspectives.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
people have their different perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
What seems right for A might not seems right for B.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's reasons why you even see some people uh, disputing the fact that there is no climate change.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's difficult for you to get everybody on board. But then, as the days are going by, the outrage keeps increasing because
Yeah.
people are becoming conscious of
Mm-hmm.
what's happening. Yeah.
What do you think is like the biggest problem that you face when that happens? When someone says, "No, no, no, there's no such thing as there's no problem here," or you know, it is not affecting me. Because as you mentioned, like everyone has their own perspective. Um,
Mm,
because I think the vertical, because it, for example, if there's a government, you know, it's there's about 200 people in a government, for example. I'm just throwing out a number. I
yeah.
heard once that to be able to convince a vertical kind of hierarchy, you know, is
Mm,
not as difficult as the horizontal because as you speak with cousins and friends and family members and, you know, just colleagues, to be able to transfer that information, it's really a bigger barrier almost because
mhm.
everyone, as you mentioned, has their own thoughts. Well, like how do you counter that? How do you work around that when someone's like, no, 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 no. What are you talking about? Have other priorities, for example.
Yeah. Most often, well, what we do is when we encounter such a situation, we just like jokingly ask some few questions.
Yeah,
Yeah, just yeah, jokingly ask some few questions. For instance, uh, like I said, in my country, we have a lot of uh, we have a lot of evidence to show that there is climate change. We don't need to
yeah,
go around, yeah, asking so many questions. Like for instance, my country uh, shares boundaries with the Sahara Desert.
yeah.
Yeah, it shares country boundaries with the Sahara Desert. Part of just a little bit of it, it extends to the Sahara Desert. So now, uh, drought is one of the problems we face,
Right.
especially yeah, especially in the northern regions. And again, this usually extends to almost the whole country.
Mm-hmm.
So we pick a scenario of that magnitude.
Mm-hmm.
We pick a scenario of that magnitude and we just ask a little question.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, for instance, why do you think we usually expect rains here from March, from
Yeah.
March 15? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but again, there are some years that rains, even by March 15, rains will not come.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, rains will not come. So we just ask a simple question. Why do you think there has been a shift in this pattern?
Mm-hmm.
Previously, by March 15, we were already experiencing rain. You see women carrying their tools to the farms to till the soil, but now
Mm-hmm.
it's not happening. What do you think is happening?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the person must have something to say. They
Yeah.
can that maybe women can no longer work because rain has not started falling. Then we'll ask, why do you think rain has not started falling? So when they following their response, then we'll be able to say, okay, you say there has been a shift. There has been a shift in climatic patterns.
Mhm.
Yeah, there has been a shift in climatic patterns. So that's just how we communicate. But then if somebody totally refuses, we don't insist on that.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we don't insist on that.
I really find, again, it comes back to you being able to, number one, communicate, but number two, kind of put it in the perspective of the other person to really bridge the gap, ask the right
Mm.
questions. Why do
Mm.
you think that is happening? What would happen if, or have you noticed the difference between this time period and that time period? Why do you think, and we, I believe that because someone had studied at a university, for example, we've looked at statistics, case studies, research, books and all of these things. But to be able
Mm.
to come to the same conclusion, but from a different perspective, as long as you let the other person really connect the dots, I think that is absolutely important. I think that's how um, change can really happen.
Yeah,
You
definitely.
agree?
Yeah. Yeah. So the, like I said, the solutions to every problem
Mhm.
spans from the communication aspect of it. Yeah. Communication, the manner in which you communicate, your method of communication will determine the outcome
Yeah,
of whatsoever thing you are going in for.
yeah.
Yep. So we that's why for us to make sure that our activities gain grounds, what we do is we struggle as much as possible to make sure that we connect the dots, like you rightly said.
Yeah.
We connect the dots so that each and everyone will see reasons why we are doing what we are doing.
Hmm. Yeah.
Mhm.
I think that's so important. It really speaks to me because now I'm looking at, doesn't matter where you are, who you're speaking to, actually, in whatever language, if you are able to, of course, if you need to know the language, but um, if you can communicate in a way and help them almost, you guide them into a conclusion, that we both realize what's really happening, maybe in their own language or they're using their own words. There's a certain form of uh kind of sharing there. How would I be able to put it? Like you guide them to make a conclusion that really is more impactful instead of just telling people something like, oh, this is that, this is this. That doesn't work. It really needs to
Mm.
come from them to be able to understand the depth of something. Because I think as we kind of go back all the way to the beginning, I mean, climate change, conservation, protection, these are all really profound topics, and
Yeah.
the effects are very dramatic. But how do you help people kind of connect the dots? And it comes back to that being able to help people connect the dots, and by communicating in a way that everyone wins.
Yeah. Like I said earlier on, these people, they are not ignorant about what's happening.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yes, they are very aware of it.
Hmm.
So yes, what is needed, what is needed is just like that awakening, some sort of awakening. Yeah, to tell them that, oh, this is it, and then to show them the way out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, to show them the way out of it, and then even they at the grassroots, uh, they have some solutions that
Hmm.
they are implementing,
Yeah.
but then they just need to be guided.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they need to be they need proper guidance
Yeah.
on how to go about it.
Right. To
Yeah.
implement
Pro-
a system or a
yeah, yeah,
process.
yeah, exactly, exactly. Because somebody who let's say observed a drop in his or her agricultural produce,
Hmm.
would definitely look for a way to
Hmm.
experience an increase in the next farming season.
Yeah.
By so doing, the person is already implementing a solution.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now that person definitely just need uh proper guidance on how to go about it. Yeah.
That seems like such a holistic, it's such a natural way to actually, you know, share knowledge and expertise. And I think that's actually the only way. I think for me,
Yeah.
I really learned a valuable lesson here because in terms of someone who has, been able to work on various projects, he's like, how can I communicate in a particular way that even using social media, for example, I know that you're on
Mm,
social media and really being able to communicate it in a way, but it must be done from the other person's perspective. And
exactly.
once that, like you mentioned, that awakening happens, then it's simply applying
Mm,
through guidance a system or a process to help
mm,
them,
mm.
increase their agricultural crops for the next reason because they know the reason now. It's just like, okay, I feel I know what it is. How can I get to the next level?
Yeah, exactly.
That for
So
me is
yeah,
absolutely
yeah. So basically what we just need to like what we bear in mind is that inclusion, that aspect of
inclusion.
inclusion
Hmm.
where everybody we feel belong. Like everybody knows that oh he or she belongs to somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that's just it. We we and most often we adopt the bottom top approach.
Hmm.
Yeah, the bottom top approach because they are at the grassroots. They feel the impact. So if they are the ones feeling the impact, obviously, like I said, it's not they are not sleeping. They are feeling the impact and they are not sleeping.
Yeah.
They are doing something. Yeah, they are doing something to avert these impacts. Yeah, so what they are doing now just needs some sort of
Yeah.
upgrading. Yeah.
Hmm.
So yeah, so in and then when we meet them again, we make it clear to them their own ideas, their own ideas. We take them, we integrate their ideas with our own ideas, and then we give it back to them. So there is that some that tendency for integration and inclusivity.
I think that's so great because I think of um that model there is not only useful in Cameroon, but I think it's useful in each country at each level, everywhere, no matter with who. Because as you mentioned, it's that sense of belonging. And I personally think that um, it's rare to find someone who is ignorant about the topic. It's just you need to make
Yeah.
the connection there and then help them understand that that they're part of the solution as well. And once that happens, I mean, it's like a universal, uh, kind of, what can I say? Like a universal um experience that can
Mm-hmm.
happen. And it's just
Yeah,
taking the time to really connect the dots there. I think that's absolutely amazing.
exactly. Exactly.
Adolf, I think you're
Exactly.
doing an amazing job because from the point of view that things are coming from and the way you do it, that's absolutely amazing. And the fact that you saw a problem, where you grew up and you took all the time to really understand systems and the scientific point of view, but really always
Mm.
make that connection to people. I think you're doing an absolute amazing job. It's very inspiring.
Thank you. Thank you.
I know
Thank
that
you.
you're on social media.
Yeah.
And this was for all of those big because I'm going to put this and record this and I'm gonna make a podcast out of this. But For those who were listening to this, we had some technical issues at the beginning, but there will be a nice little intro. But for everyone who wants to know about what you're doing, if they want to get in touch with you, the links for the previous organizations that you worked with, tell us how we can stay in contact with you, and then from there, yeah, I'll make sure to put on all your links in the description.
Yes, sure. For the links, you can just, for example, for Green Globe organization,
Green Globe.
you
Okay,
just go, yeah, Green Globe, just Google search www.greenglobe.org.
perfect.
Yeah,
Then on
just
social
type.
media, and then on social media, are you there kind of talking about the projects that you're working on?
Yeah, on social media, yeah, like on Facebook, we got a page on Facebook, we got a page on LinkedIn.
Okay,
Yes, just type Green Globe.
Green Globe.
Yeah, it will pop up.
Green Globe on LinkedIn, on Facebook, you said as well?
Yes, on Facebook as well.
Perfect. And then look for
That
you, greenglobes.com.
yes, on Google, just type greenglobe.com, .org.
.org. Yeah, yeah. Oh, perfect.
You'll see
Yeah,
it.
perfect. Put the links below so that people can follow and get in touch with you. Also,
Exactly.
and I think again, I think that's amazing the way that you're doing things because one of the ideas behind what I'm doing research on, and I'm the one of the ideas behind this podcast is to be able to see what people are doing, whether they're an entrepreneur or professional, and seeing what
Mm.
solutions are being implemented to really understand like it's not the sustainability there is something that we can do about it. And it's not just problem here, we can't do anything. And you're proof
Yeah.
outreach and working directly with people is
Mm.
and the way you're doing it is very inspiring.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you. Yeah, I would like to say, yeah, for those who might want to get in touch with me also, yeah, they can check me on across my social media handles. Yep, just uh on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Instagram, and then on Twitter.
on Twitter as well. Perfect.
Yep.
Send me all those links
Just
and put them in the description so we people can follow you.
yeah, sure. Just on Twitter, just type my name, Bekumba Adolf.
Become an adult.
This same profile picture on my Zoom is what's on my Twitter page.
Okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
on LinkedIn, just type the same name, Bekumba Adolf. It will pop up. I'm putting on a brown suit.
Okay.
Yeah,
Change
and
the
then on
photo because
Facebook,
we won't recognize you.
yeah, on Facebook, like you the I'm putting on something a yellow top on Facebook. You see
All right.
like the picture you got, and then you design that flyer with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Just type on Facebook. Just type Adolf Bekumba. You will pop up.
And also, I'm gonna put this in the Facebook group so that people can have access there.
Yeah,
Again,
exactly.
we went another route, but we got it done. So I'll make this available for other people. Adolf, thank you so very much for taking the time because really I learned so much here, and I think all the projects you're working on is absolutely amazing. For this Sunday, I was definitely inspired. So thank you for taking the time to talk to me. I learned a lot, and I know other people will learn a lot through this as well.
You're most welcome, Luis.
Perfect.
Anytime you want us to have a conversation, just let me know. I'll set out time and then we talk.
Perfect. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm gonna stop recording now. Thank you for
Okay.
listening, and then there we go. All right.